Let me first start with just asking a question. Why on earth and how on earth did I arrive here in Budapest? I'm 76 years old. I have grandchildren at home, as you heard. There is so many things. So when I will say something about generations, I think it has something to do with a span of life. In the late 70s, that's a long time ago, in the late 70s, I turned 30. Then I was a young leader with the navigators. I had many needs, but then we had annual Lausanne gatherings in Norway. We have had Ramesh Atalla coming up from Egypt with exciting Bible teaching. I was with Lutheran bishops and Pentecostal key leaders in Norway. They worked together because we saw that we needed one another to do the things we were called to do in Norway. And I was somehow marinated in this atmosphere of missional friendships, some senior leaders that were there for us as younger people, and then these values we just heard about. I think that is where I come from, and this has to do with relationships. It has to do with generations. And I think it's fair to start with just the idea that we serve a God of generations. I mean, he loves to call himself the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He kind of spans 3 generations at the same time. And that's an encouragement to us to think generationally, not only on us and the next, but even the 3rd generation. One generation will commend your works to another. We read in Psalm 145. Therefore, the Lausanne movement has been very eager and is very eager to do something for young leaders. There was a gathering for young leaders in Singapore, 1987, Malaysia in 2006, some of us were there. We had one in 2016 in Jakarta, and we're planning for one in 2026. But Lausanne, we want to do more than just gather us, more than just gathering younger people. Because we see this need of a long-term working. The spring of 2016, Michael O., the CEO of the Lausanne movement, he invited a few of us to start to dream and to plan for what has since then been called the Younger Leaders Generation, YLGen. We wanted this to follow the gathering in Jakarta in 2016. And we defined this as a 10-year commitment to partner with younger leaders and to connect younger leaders with Lausanne issue networks, we'll hear more about tomorrow, with the regions, with mentors, and with resources, and connect younger leaders with one another. That came out of this meeting we just had, and you may see Evie there, that we will hear from afterwards. I was also privileged to be there. Since then, from these 8 years, we have had an executive team led by Nana Ya Ofewaku, a good friend from Ghana. He has had this team, and we have done different things. We have served younger leaders with missionary resources as webinars, podcasts, scholarships. For example, a young woman from Tunisia, we were able to help her with a scholarship in a theological education in the US so she could have a theological education. She would never, ever have been able to do that. We have been able to help many younger leaders with this kind of scholarships. We have groups and gatherings, regional ones, global ones. Evie Rodeman works with that. I have been working on the whole area of whole life mentoring, how to come alongside younger leaders and care for the whole person. We have been helping younger leaders in the area of scripture and prayer. We have included a regional director and one from the issue networks to create integration among us. And what started with a few people around the table in spring 2016 are no more than 60 people trying to serve young leaders in this global network that we call Young Leaders Generation. We have done this, and we do it in Norway. After Jakarta, Philip Monnery, as we heard yesterday, Evy Rodeman, and we decided we need to take this into Europe. Evy and Philip and others here have been doing a tremendous job on gatherings. We will meet in Sarajevo again later in November. We are looking forward to be with you again. I have been seeking to help to find mentors for younger leaders who need a mentor. This spring, May, we did something very interesting. We gathered 106 people from all over the world, from the age span of 18 to 81 years of age, evenly spread over the different decades in our lives. And then in that connection, we created this pyramid. In the bottom left corner, you see we need a biblical vision for generations. What does the Bible say about generations? We worked on that biblically. We worked on the missional calling. We have Seoul 2024, but we are also planning the next gathering for younger leaders in 2026. Then we will start the second younger leaders generation cohort. We have had 950 younger leaders involved since 2016. Now we will create a new cohort coming out of the gathering in 2026. And in 2026, we will really focus on all the younger leaders who will be coming to Seoul to mobilize the younger leaders, the next generation leaders for global mission. So that's what we are about. So let me just pull it back again. From a cave, we hear this cry from David. Who cares for my soul? He is fleeing from Saul, who has gone crazy, and he needs someone who cares for his soul, who cares for him as a whole person. Jonathan was brought there by God as a close friend, and the relationship between Jonathan and David, we can read much about it. The beauty of personal friendships and relationships. And this is what we are focusing in YL Gen as we are ending YL Gen 1, but as we are now planning for the YL Gen 2, with new teams, with new people, with new opportunities to support young leaders. Whole life mentoring. Why don't I only say mentoring? Some people will say, please come help me with my church plant. That's great. We want to help with church plants and all kinds of different issues. But what we are after primarily in YLGen is to think about the whole life. This whole life mentoring is a matter of the heart. It is about leaning in vulnerability with one another, in mutuality with one another, in friendships with one another, and learning from one another, because then all of us benefit across the generations. I'm privileged to serve with a friend from Novosibirsk. I'm more than twice as old as him. But what I learned from my friend, Alexei Shabinsky, who had to flee the country and is now in Mexico. The friendship between us is such a deep and important friendship, and this is the kind of friendships we want to cultivate and develop in YLGen. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Are you good? Are you enjoying being here? Good. Because I think this is exactly what we are trying to do, is trying to see what is God doing through us. Through us as we meet and have developed relationships and all across and discerning what is God doing today through us in Europe, but also what does he do through the globe? What can we do together that we can't do on our own, what we can't do as our continent? And so I love events, and I was already introduced, and loving events, but I also love the Lausanne movement. And bringing this two together gives me the greatest joy of being part of such a special movement, and also being part of preparing Seoul 24. And I've prepared some slides because I want to, and I think now you're telling me I can click, right? Let's see if I can click. No magic. Okay, not there yet, but I would love to share something on the 4th Lausanne Congress on the World Evangelization. Why am I so passionate about it? And some of you already asked me yesterday, are you really think what it means, not just for one mission organization, but different ones coming together and saying, we address that need together. So what are some of the needs? I want to, share my passion with you here and saying, can I plead with you in Europe not to let this Congress pass you? Can I really plead with you? I think we don't need this conference to see a change in Europe. We don't need that. But I think listening to the global voices of the church is going to change the way we perceive church today. So as we have thought about, what is the theme of the conference for next year, we said, let the church declare and display Christ together. So keywords in there is church, it is together, and it's just declaring and displaying. So it's again, word and deed coming together and saying, together as the global church, we need to be impacting the global mission together. And that's also why we are so passionate about 2050. In 2050, we say major trends are going to, be very evident today. And what can we do today to address the needs of tomorrow? What can we do today to change so that the world, as it is estimated, will look in 2050, will not look like it is assuming today? So what does it mean for us? And so why I'm so excited about it, and as we talked, Victor shared about the impact of the Lausanne movement, that is a multi-year process. We have regional gatherings everywhere. And now we're just coming so soon to a conclusion of these 12 different regions. And it's very global. For the first time, also, yesterday you mentioned, Jim, we listen to more margin voices than we ever did in the past. And also it's very polycentric. Everyone is partaking in it. We are listening to all these different voices. It isn't just driven by our dear Americans or Europeans or whatever. And so the goal for our conference here is the catalytic collaboration of the global church for the discipling of all nations and the shaping of the world in 2050. So again, the word collaboration is very, very strong. It's one of the things we want to see happening across. So I don't know if we're going to have 5,000 or 10,000 collaborations coming out of it, but I care that we come out collaborating with each other even more than ever, because it's again about that together. And how do we shape the world in the future? And so at the moment we are in this process, and we had more than 35,000 nominations coming, also from many of you. So that was very hard on Lars and Joseph and others discerning who's going to come to which part. So that has been very, very hard. And so application processes are in place, and now we have the selection process. There are about 3,500 are now chosen, I think, for the conference. Some are already chosen for the online opportunity, and then we have some more stuff happening. And so this is going to be the place we're going to meet, and it's just an Incheon outside Seoul, near to the airport. It's a beautiful conference center, and the Korean church is really eager. One of the pastors there on the Lausanne board, David Choi, he said, the Lausanne 4 conference is going to be the last chance for Korea. If you think of Korea going wild and crazy and beautiful and it's all active, it's not. I've seen it with my own eyes now over the last year. It is a very broken church in so many ways. They've lost the young generation on multiple levels. It is heartbreaking. So that for that nation already, having the conference there is going to be so crucial for their future. So we're going to have expositions, Bible expositions in the mornings. We look at various issues. We have afternoon breakouts. Let me just go into that a bit more. And we want to listen to the global church. What are the lessons in there? And I'm just going to run you through a bit, which I find very fascinating. So this is the up-to-date program from last week. And I think Europe is well ahead as we are already dealing with Acts. Acts is going to be the book we're going to work on mornings and afternoons and evenings, all about Acts. And then discerning what is out there. And you see different areas we just put an emphasis on. We have workplace ministry gatherings in the afternoon, and then also we have afternoon breakout sessions. So there's space actually to collaborate across different nations and regions and whatever. So different things in there, and you can have the slides afterwards if you like to. And then in the evenings, we have, again, different things we're going to focus on. And I'm really excited about Thursday night, listening to the joys and failures of the Korean church. It's going to be a case study. How does that work? How does it apply to us in missions today? And other things in there, we have different regions being represented, different ages, and different conflicts, and really trying to wrap this all up in prayer and worship through various things. So these are now, as I said, there are 47 gaps, but the space is very limited. So we had to squeeze everything into 25 gaps, 25 places at the convention center, which we're going to work on. And I think they are crucial. At the moment, we are working on the State of the Great Commission report. It's going to be the most up-to-date ever statistics globally we will have. And it looks amazing, and some of the top scholars on the globe have already certified. So these are issues we're going to address in various things, and it's going to be afternoon-driven, and you will be placed in your issue and whatever you're interested in, and then you're going to work and collaborate on these things together. So, and then we have the offline online opportunity, and I really want to plead with you. I don't know what you're going to be chosen for. This is not me to decide, but can I say, each of you can play a part in this. You're not just sitting here saying, oh, it's happening for someone else. No, it's happening for all of us. We are inviting the global church to be part of this event. And I don't know what Times Magazine is later going to say about this event, but for us, I hope it's going to be crucial and really important. We want even the virtual participants, and we are having maybe more than 50,000 in different venues and streams participating, but really be active collaborators in there. And so it's not a second-class ticket if you're coming to Seoul, or if you're just not just invited to be virtual there, but also we say this is going to be very profound. There's going to be exclusive stuff just for the online community. And so we have three things. We have cohort experiences. We have satellite sites. We are just thinking of about 10,000 satellite sites all across the globe. How amazing would that be to have, I don't know how many numbers in Europe, rent your church and invite people to be part of these satellite sites. And then, of course, we have the public broadcast, probably via YouTube, where you can follow some of the sessions as much as possible. So the benefits are there, engaging with different ones on different tiers. And we just, it's going to be a platform. We're going to choose how to join online with 5,000. And then there's 2,000, whatever satellite sites, 50,000 global participants. And then also the big thing, could we, spread the word around? And so I'm really wanting to invite you to be part of this journey. Don't let this opportunity pass you. And sorry. Oh, there's Janet. Saying that we're going to have the 50-year anniversary of the movement celebrating right there. So on that night, probably we're going to be joined by another 1,000 Koreans, but it's really celebrating the fruit of the movement, but also some of our own failures as a movement, and reflecting on what does it need, from us to go into the future together. So, and at the end of the day, we're going to ask for collaboration commitments globally. Are you committed to be part of seeing Christ come back? Are you committed to be committed, again, to world evangelization, whatever it will cost us to see Christ come? Thank you.
Well, as you've heard, and as you can see, my name is Lars Newman, and I have sort of three roles in the Lausanne movement. I serve as the global director for all the 12 regions of the Lausanne world. And I want to say just a little bit about that in a moment. But secondly, I'm the regional director for the Caribbean. That's my region where I live. I'm from Jamaica in the Caribbean, and so I have my region that I'm responsible for. And I've also been asked, along with Joseph Vijayam from India, to be a co-chair of the participant selection committee for Seoul. So I'm guilty on all counts as I stand before you. I'm asked to say something about the L4 process. The L4 process. That's what I'm going to speak to you about. The L4 journey. But before I do that, 30 seconds to say three things. I mentioned that my responsibility involves coordinating the 12 teams of regional directors from around the world. Europe is one of those regions, so I'm glad to be here. And so first I want to say thank you to Jim and Usha and their marvelous team for bringing us all together here. Let's give them a round of applause. You have worked amazingly well, and they've only been appointed not very long ago, in January of last year. And within 4 weeks, almost less than 4 weeks, they were appointed on the 27th of January, and on the 24th of February, you know what happened in Europe. A major event happened in Europe. And as Jim says, things have never been the same. So they were plunged in at the deep end when we had this issue between the Russian Republic and Ukraine. And they had to deal with all the fallout and all the consequences, all the implications of that. Thank you. And I want to thank all my Ukrainian friends who are here at this gathering. Thank you for being here as well. And then last evening, I did our welcome and introduction. You were asked how many of you are here for the very first time. And I think more than a third of this room raised their hands. Quite a large number. So I want to say, where have you been? Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. This is your first time. And I sat at breakfast this morning with my two brothers from Malta, my Maltese friends. This is their first time being in a Lausanne meeting. Welcome, and welcome to all the first-timers. I bring you greetings from Michael O., our Chief Executive Officer in the Lausanne movement. He sends greetings to you. This is the 9th regional gathering out of 12 for 2023. We have 3 more to go, and thankfully they have combined into one event, and that is the region, the continent of Africa. This is a pan-European gathering. You have 27 countries here, 37 countries here out of 40 or 41 countries in Europe. They have 6 to 7 countries across Africa, and they will be meeting in a few days this month in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia for a Pan-Africa conference that includes the Middle East and North Africa. That's the big one, and that would be our final for the year. All 12 regions will have had an event just like this. Well, why are we doing this? What is the L4 journey? You've heard of Brother Vitali demonstrate and shared with us about Lausanne 1, Lausanne 2, Lausanne 3. Well, Lausanne 4 is just about 11 months away. It's coming up in 2024. It will be the 50th anniversary of the Lausanne movement, the Jubilee, as you've heard from Evie. And all of this is in preparation for that moment. So we are already in Lausanne 4. The journey began in, as you will see here, for a moment, if you get the technology working here, it should work. All right, I'm coming back. Let's see. All right, we'll stay there for a moment. This is what I'm going to be sharing with you about. But we started this journey in 2020. And we started in 2020 for 2 reasons. First of all, it was decided in 2020 that we would meet in 2024 for the 4th Congress. It will be 14 years since 2010, the 3rd Congress. 14 years would have passed. And so many things have happened in 14 years. It was thought the time would come for the 4th Congress. So L4 means Lausanne 4, the 4th Congress. But the journey began in 2010. It began in 2010 when in January of that year we were discussing in Philadelphia about the 4th Congress. And by March, the World Health Organization had declared that there was a global public health emergency called COVID-19. And as a result, the whole world was locked down. Borders were closed. Everything shut down. We had to keep our social distances. And so we couldn't travel. And so we said, well, life goes on. What do we do? How do we keep the planning process? So we began, and actually for the Lausanne movement, we continued what we were doing before COVID. And that is the whole process of communicating virtually through what we call a listening process. So I'm just going to run through the 4 points of what I want to talk to you about, the 4 bullets, but I want to frame it in the context of the first bullet point about the listening process. Lausanne 4, the journey beginning in 2020, was about listening. We listened to each other globally. And we had a world tour during COVID where we went around the world and we listened to each region virtually as individuals were invited from each country in the region to be part of the listening process. Well, Europe, having had 5 years of listening in preparation for what would have been Europe 2021, they didn't really do that virtual thing then. They did it in 2022 when you had your European gathering, which was absolutely brilliant. And thank you, Lars, Jim, and the team that led that. And I want to also just take a moment to say thank you to your predecessor, Jim, who I spotted in the room, Jean-Paul Rem from Lyon. Thank you, Jean-Paul. Glad you're here. Thank you for what you have contributed to the Lausanne movement over the years, for translating all the foundational documents into French for the Francophone world, and for convening that conference on nominalism in Rome, which was one of the legacies of our movement. Thank you, Jean-Paul. So, let's see. I framed the 4 points in the context of the listening. And just to make the point that one of the distinctive things about the Judeo-Christian faith tradition is the gift of listening. All throughout the Old Testament, we see individuals who listened to God. And if we had time, we could do a whole study on that. Both the Old Testament and the New Testament. They listened to God, beginning with our father Abraham, the call of Abraham, Genesis 12, and the covenant that God gave to Abraham in Genesis 17. God called him to leave his place, to leave his homeland, and to go to a place that God, with Yahweh, was going to lead him and show him. And he listened to God. And God made a covenant with Abraham. He became the father of many nations, the father of our faith. But the prophets and the priests and the kings throughout the Old Testament listened to God. Young Samuel learned as he was being mentored by Eli, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." David, as a king of Israel, in that wonderful psalm and another psalm, Psalm 46, said, "Be still and know that I am God." Listen to God. Be aware of how he speaks, what he's saying to us, and so on, right through. Isaiah, Jeremiah, they listened to God, and they did their leadership, and they carried out their prophetic ministry in a listening role. Of course, in the New Testament, we know how Jesus, as the Messiah, as the Son of God, listened to God, his Father. And Paul, in his own conversion from Saul, Paul listened to God. And then, of course, we have the apostle who was studying the book of Acts, and so on. So listening is a gift, but it's also a part of our Judeo-Christian faith tradition, where in the Lausanne movement and in the church, we have continued that process. In the whole conciliar movement, from Nicaea and Chalcedon, from the beginning of Jerusalem, there have been convening meetings where they listen to each other and they make decisions about the future of the faith. And that's a legacy that we continue in the Lausanne movement. We just want to get this thing moving. There you go. All right. We've got. Yeah. All right. It's called rewind. Just a second here. Yeah. Right. It's coming up. All right. This is the diagram that I want you just to be aware of. The journey. This is the journey. Beginning in 2020, we had the listening process. We listened to all 12 regions as they convene listening audiences. But we not only did that as regions, we did that in the YLG network, we did it in the issue network, we did it as a board to right across the movement, at all levels. They were listening. And listening was centered around 5 questions. We're meeting here at this moment, here in Budapest, to deepen the listening process in Europe. And the listening is centered on these 5 questions. First, what are the remaining gaps and opportunities towards fulfilling the Great Commission? We were trying to discern in every region, what are the gaps? What's missing in all the work that we do for the kingdom of God in advancing the Great Commission? What are the opportunities? Second, we want to look at what are the breakthroughs, what are the innovations that we see in the work of God in our regions that will help towards fulfilling the Great Commission. The third question has to do with where is greater collaboration needed? One of the tendencies is for us to work alone and to work in our little silos, but we need to work together. As a third question, fourth question is about the research. Where is more research needed? We are research focused. We work on the basis of knowledge. We work on the basis of what we know and discover and what we learn and how we're directed. And then, of course, we want to know about who else should be invited to the process. The 5 questions that were asked of every region and is asked of you here in this region. So we began that in 2020, and we've gone through almost 2 years of that. And in 2023, we've had the regions further their discussion, their collaboration on those 5 questions. But then, as Amy mentioned, they also have what is called a global listening team. So all the regional work has been fed into a global listening team. They're co-chaired by Steve Moon from Korea and Eiko from Japan. In February of 2024, just before we get to the Congress itself, there will be the release of the State of the Great Commission report. So all of this is being fed into work led by Master Neerman. Some of you are involved in that, representing Europe, and they will produce for us the Great Commission report, and then we'll get to Seoul. So this is the journey. The journey. So L4 is not something that begins in Seoul. it's a multi-year process, and it is moving from 2020 and culminates in 2024. I'm coming to you. 30 seconds.
I'll stand next to you then.
Yeah, all right. Please, sir. All right. So, one of the things that I want to communicate is the difference between L4 or Lausanne 4 and Lausanne 1, Lausanne 2, and Lausanne 3. I don't know if any of you here last night, we didn't see anybody raise their hand that you were here in Lausanne 1 in Switzerland in the 74. But some said, well, I was here, I attended Lausanne 2 or Lausanne 3. I want you to understand, Lausanne 4 is not going to be like 1, 2, or 3. It's going to be very, very different in many ways, and we can talk about that during the break. One of the difference is that it is a 4-year process of listening and discerning and documenting, and we will bring all of that to the event in Seoul. So we're looking forward to being together in Seoul. Out of that, of course, as Evie mentioned, the expectation is that there will come many collaborative teams that will take the work forward, will take the initiatives forward, that will take the whole thrust towards fulfilling the Great Commission forward from 2024 towards 2050. So you're in the journey. Welcome to the journey. We look forward to seeing you in Seoul. Thank you.